Hello Space Cats! I've been away from YouTube for a few weeks, buried under a buffalo, but it's okay, I've managed to fight my way out and I'm back. One of the things that you'll need to get really good at when you've decided to make a go of becoming an author is to be able to read in schools. Last week I did 2 school visits, so it's fresh in my mind. When I first started, it was 12 BC. That's 12 years before I had children. The thought of going into a class full of 5-year-olds filled me with utter terror. I thought it was going to be like herding cats. Frankly, I'd rather staple my feet to the ceiling. Many of you who watch this channel and who are becoming authors for the first time are already parents or grandparents. But I literally had no small children in my family. I was the youngest of everybody, so I had no experience. If you've heard me talking about my author journey before, then you'll know that my children were a little bit older by the time my first book was published. In fact, they were 12 and 8, so I'd had quite a lot of good training by that time. I was very much a bedtime story kind of parent, so I'd done lots of reading of children's books to them. But going into classrooms, well, this is what I found out. Number 1. Most children are going to be immediately interested in you because you are something different from the norm. You're not their usual afternoon activity, so you've already got their attention, and you can use this to your advantage. Number 2. Set the tone when you first speak to them. If you feel like you're quite a funny sort of person, you've got a funny story to tell, then make sure that you have that atmosphere of amusement about you. However, if your story is about something sad or maybe bullying, something like that, then have more of a serious tone with them. If you've written a book about science or NASA, then have some NASA paraphernalia to take along with you, just so that it sets that tone when you first open up to them. Number 3. You are not meant to control the class. You're not the teacher. That's not your job. If you go in with a really stern face and tell them to sit up straight and stop fiddling, then you're not going to give the children the best experience that they can get from you. You're not going to have a compliant audience. That doesn't mean you can't have a few tricks up your sleeve though. More about that towards the end of the video. Number 4. If it's your first time or maybe your second or third time and you're really nervous about how you're going to fill this time with them, reading your book, are you going to have to read it really slowly? Or, well, what's going to happen? What are you going to talk about? The thing that I did was I made sure I had an activity to take with me, and that way I had something I could fall back on. It could be something, well, definitely needs to be something that's related to your book, but it could be something like easy, like a word search, or it could be a colouring in page, or if it's for older children, maybe you could ask them to rewrite the end of the story, or choose different characters to put in the story. Give them a bit of creative writing to do. For a picture book, it's going to take 15 to 20 minutes reading it if you go at a slow pace. And you talk about the pictures as you look at the book. Don't just read the text with the book in front of you without them being able to see what the pictures are. Turn it around, read the text, and then talk about what's in the picture. And then that should take you maybe about 15 minutes or more if you get them to ask some questions and really get them engaged. Number 5. Make sure you start off by introducing yourself. The class teacher might have been too busy to really explain to the class who you are, so they might just think you're a stand-in teacher. They might have absolutely no idea what you're here to do, so make sure you start off by saying your name, preferably your first name, and then what you're here to do. I usually say to the children, does anybody know what I'm here to do this afternoon? And some of them will say, yes, you'll come to read a story, or you're an author. And then I will talk to them about, well, what does an author mean? And for me personally, because I'm the illustrator as well, we can then chat about what does an illustrator do? that just starts by opening up that conversation, that two-way between you and the class. Number 6. At the end of the session, you can see if anyone's got any questions for you. Now, children under 7 might well need explaining what a question is. It's something that you want to find out about me or about my book. Because otherwise you're going to get 25 hands going up and people telling you that I've got a dog, or my dad's got a motorbike, or please can I go to the toilet? Now you might like a few ideas about what you can ask from the school and what you need from them. When you first approach a school, offer them a free visit. If you are unknown to them, they're unlikely to pay you. You need to forge a relationship with them before they'll know who you are and know that you're a good deal. Or you can ask them if they have a budget for an author visit, but don't let that be a deal breaker. It's more important for you at this stage to get the experience of going into schools. If you want to have a book sale at the end of your visit, and really this is how you're going to make a bit of money, the best time of day is to go and see the children in the afternoon after their lunch break and through the afternoon. Maybe visit 2 or 3 classes if you can. That way, at the end of school, when the parents come to pick up their children, you are there with a lovely table full of your books. And the children are going to come out of school and say, I've just seen an author, and talk about it. In my experience, when I've done morning visits, I rarely get any book sales because it's pretty unlikely that the parents are going to give their children money to take into school to buy the book. However, sometimes you get schools that are really helpful and they will encourage parents to drop money into the office in the morning when they drop the children off to school. Not everyone has money to spend on books, so I have some promotional bookmarks that I give out for free. So I always say to the children at the end of my visit in their class, if you want to come and see me at the end of school, I will be out by the office or in the library or wherever they're going to put me. I will be out there. If you want to come and buy a book, come and see me and I'll sign a book for you. But if you haven't got the money to buy a book, or if you don't want to buy a book, come and see me anyway and I'll give you a free bookmark. That way you're still getting your name out there and hopefully they will remember you when they need to buy a present for someone. When you talk to the school prior to your visit, ask them to make sure the parents know that you're coming. I always give them a free electronic poster that they can attach to their newsletter, which goes out at the end of each week. But also, on the day of your visit, ask them if they can send the parents a text message. It's also vital that the children know you're coming. The more preparation a teacher can put into it, the more the children and you are going to get out of it. So you can offer the teacher to buy a copy of your book before you come so that they can have a good look at it. You can also make sure that the teacher has your web address so that they can also have a look at that, maybe in class, have a look at other books that you've written or an interesting and child-friendly About Me section. If there's anything that you need in advance for your session, make sure the school and the class teachers know this. You might need a flip chart and pens, or you might need a laptop. But if you've got a PowerPoint presentation of your book, and I quite often do this, you'll need to send it to them in advance. Gone are the days when you can just turn up with a USB stick with it on. They won't let you do that for safeguarding reasons. So make sure you send them your PowerPoint electronically before you come so that they can have a look at it, check through it, load it onto their laptop, and then you're good to go when you arrive. This is particularly useful if your book is fairly small and you've got a big class, or if you're doing a hall full of children or even an assembly. Those children need to see that picture big. Because if you're showing them a tiny picture and they are sitting way back at the end of the hall, they're going to lose interest really quickly and you're going to lose your audience. It's great if the teachers can take part, because if the children see their teachers taking part, then they are more likely to give you their full attention and focus. You might want to ask the teacher to hold the book whilst you read it, or take part in a funny game. Or you can ask them to choose children. If you are asking questions, they know which children are likely to answer them in a reasonable way. So ask them, who would like to ask a question, Mr. Smith? Or you can, if you're asking them to do something like dressing up, as I quite often do, particularly for royal fleas, I will say to the teacher, could you choose a Sophie for me? Could you choose the Queen for me? And then they know which children are confident enough to be able to take that role on. On the subject of teacher involvement, they should not be sitting at the back of the class marking books or chatting to somebody else. They should be giving you their full attention. They should be up there doing what they need to do with the children, not just for you, but also for safeguarding reasons. So if you come across someone like that, and believe me, I have done, make a note and make sure that you don't visit their class again, even if they move schools. Or you can ask in advance for them to participate and let them know what you're expecting them to do or asking them to do. Don't forget, teachers are there to do a bit of crowd control. If things get a bit out of hand, then they will be there to remind children how to behave. You might find that the children get so excited by your visit that they all start talking at once, and it's really difficult then to control things. There are a few ways you can deal with this. Number 1. Ask the teacher before you start if there's a special way that they get the children's attention. For example, clapping. I've been into classes where the teacher will go and the children will all stop and listen and then go. Number 2. When you start talking to the class, tell them that if they have something to say or want to ask a question, to put their hand up. That way, you'll be able to hear what they're saying, because if they all talk at once, you just can't understand them. You can say it in a way that's fun and positive without being strict and unpleasant. Number 3. You can go a stage further and say, if you shout, "Moose!" then they have to stop talking and stop what they're doing and put their moose horns on. Like this. They might be a big daddy moose, or they might just be a little baby moose. They can choose. Number 4. Make sure that you read your audience at all times. If you notice that they're getting a bit restless, then move on to something else. If you're halfway through your book, then speed it up a bit. Ask some questions. Who likes cake? What football team do you support? Put your hand up if you've got a dog. Number 5. Do not speak like a sports person being interviewed. Monotony is the fuel of boredom, and you will soon have your audience yawning and wishing they were somewhere else. Use a loud and a soft voice. Go very fast or slow right down. When you read dialogue, put on a funny voice. 6. If you have really lost your audience at the end of your session, you need to clap your hands and say, "Right, before I go, I just want to say you've been a wonderful class this afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. Give yourselves a big round of applause." And hopefully that will bring your session to a finish on a positive note. 7. Remember to let them know that you've got books for sale. Come and see me at the end of school and get your free bookmark if you don't want to buy a book, but I have got my books for sale. Make sure you tell them where it's going to be. You should know by then. Hopefully someone's told you. When they come to see you at the book sale, remember, you're a celebrity to them. So make sure you act like one in the best possible way. Make a big deal of them coming to see you. Make sure you sign their book nicely with their name in it, and maybe if you're an illustrator, do a special little drawing for them. Talk to their parents or whoever they've come with too, and say how lovely it was to see them in their class. And that is it. Now, don't think you're going to remember all of those things the first time you go into a school. It's just some tips and ideas of things that you'll learn along the way and things that you might pick up all by yourself. Certainly things that I've learnt along the way. I love doing my school visits. It's one of the best parts of my job because I get immediate feedback from the people that I'm writing for. And I think you'll find the same thing too.
If you'd like further artist tutorials, I have a variety of short courses that will help you. There are real-time sessions looking at painting, drawing and marker pens, among others. And if you're keen on producing your own book, there is a more in-depth course on what you need to know about self-publishing a book with illustrations. That covers making key decisions, how to make layouts and dummy books, rhythm and pacing, as well as several tutorials on illustrating a book and a look at the tech. You can either hop over to my website or join me on Patreon for more information. Go on, give it a go!
Next week, unbelievably, is the first week of December. I'll be finding out who is really the ugly one in the ugly duckling story. And it might not be who you think it is. Until then, I'm off to wear out a werewolf. So I will see you next week. Nanu nanu.